guess what? It's time for catalog and cocktails.
We're live.
It's honest, it's no BS, and there's alcohol involved.
Yes, we are. I think we are live. All right. We can have myself.
How are you doing, Juan?
Finally, I think this has been the longest break that we've taken. I don't know.
I think so, yes. Summer. This was I feel like we took like a 4-month break.
Well, I think it was end of May, June, July. So I think 3 full months. But anyways, it is glad to be back. We're here. Can you believe that we're starting year 7? That's a crazy thing.
I know. Year 7, season 12 or something like that.
Yeah.
The season numbers and the years, they don't line up because lately we do 2 seasons per year. But
here we are.
Tell you what, we don't run out of cocktails. Sometimes we run out of creativity, but
all right, kick off.
What are you drinking, Juan?
I am doing something a bit creative. Well, so I am for people remember, I was drinking a lot of Aperol before. I have now been on a Negroni type of thing, a lot of Campari.
Got the Campari.
So this is the Rosita. The Rosita is, I put like almost 2 ounces of tequila, a little bit less than an ounce of sweet vermouth, dry vermouth, Campari, and shoot, I was supposed to put Angostura bitters, which I forgot. But anyways, this is a Reposado tequila. Really good.
It looks good. It looks like a Negroni riff.
It is. This is great. I'm really happy, doing all the Negroni twists. So
yeah, I like that. I like. I feel like this has become a theme of our show a little bit. Is we'll pick an ingredient that we're working on. I had a phase a season and a half ago where it was all gin drinks, and then you just riff on it. You're like, what are the different things you could do with this?
What are you drinking?
I have. So I just moved into a new house, so I don't have a full proper bar set up. But I do still have some whiskey, so I poured myself a little bit of Jefferson's Ocean, and this is the wheated mash bill version, so it's a little bit smoother, and you get a little bit of that wheat kind of aftertaste. It's very good. I like it when my whiskey is put in a barrel and sloshed in the ocean. Evidently, that makes it better somehow.
And then I want to take that barrel to do some other wine or whatever later on.
Yeah, and then they take that barrel, sun and salt scorched, and make a crazy wine.
All right, well, cheers.
Yes, to another season, and to what a cool time as always to be in data and AI.
For sure. And Kettle, hey, it's been a long time. I remember we met in London, so thanks for joining us here.
Yeah, glad to have you.
Tim, what's on your mind? By the way, Tim was like, I texted Tim a half an hour ago. So what are we going to talk about? I'm like, let's join 15 minutes before so we can prep what we're going to talk about. We ended up talking about
it's not
varied stuff. So
it's not a proper rant if we don't pull it together very quickly. Well, I say there's a few different things we're excited about, right? There's some very top of mind topics that are maturing that I think, especially Juan, you want to dive into. And then there's some interesting, just kind of happenings in the space, which I think are noteworthy and are going to be some thematics as we move through our season. And we've got quite a few guests already locked in, and we kind of know what we've talked about. Maybe 1 or 2 of them we've even recorded, and they're ready to go. And cool topics. I feel like we're going to, it's always my favorite season when we have variety, right? Where you have sort of tried and true kind of data and analytics, but then we can get more technical, right? Let's get a little engineering. Let's learn about databases and things like that, right? And then let's get more into strategy and culture and what we can do there. And let's get out on the edges and let's learn about new technologies that are just kind of breaking the barrier on things. One of the topics I know that we're going to talk about this season is quantum computing. And what does that mean in general? But what does that mean for data and analytics? And that, something that always has felt 10 years away, all of a sudden doesn't feel like 10 years away anymore. It feels like it's coming a lot faster.
So the great variety. Actually, next week we're going to have Bethany Sehon. She's from Capital One and has been working on data products and ontologies for a long time. And one thing, I met Bethany back in 2019 at the Knowledge Graph conference back in 2019, and she was presenting already about like the pilots that Capital One was doing. So talk about somebody who's like a team who's been really investing in all of the semantic stuff,
Literally 5 year ahead of their time.
way before everybody else in doing this, right? So I'm really excited to go through that talk with Bethany. I'm really glad. So I'm just the quick list that I have here. Like we're having Patrick McGarry, who's one of our coworkers from Data.World.
Just wrote a book.
Wrote a book on data, so we could do that about all the organizational transformation. Dora Boussiers was going to be back. Welcome back to another guest who's joining
join the repeat VIP list.
There we go. It was great to catch up with her at CDOIQ, which I'll chat about in a bit. And I think what was interesting is I want to talk about like how do you keep maintaining the trust? Executives need to keep trying to trust because right now there's so much stuff all over the place. So that's one thing. Another person who I've met, this is a cool thing about just being out there in the field and having like you have conversations on LinkedIn and then you actually meet with somebody. I've been interacting online with David Krause, who's a VP of Enterprise Data at Comcast. And then I was at the CDOIQ conference, and there he is in the middle of the hallway, and I had no idea. And it was a fantastic to hang out with him and learn so much. So really excited about that. Who else is on our list here?
Well, I think you haven't mentioned Charchar yet, right?
Yes, that's true. Unfortunately, it won't be in a helicopter.
No, it won't be. We don't own a helicopter yet. We're working on it, but that's going to be great. I mean, he gets to talk to so many interesting people, and he just knows so much about data. So that's going to be a really fun conversation. We got a little bit more industry voices this time, which I think is good. Like I'm in from ADP. Some other people that we're gonna be having join us. So I think overall we're gonna have some very interesting conversations.
And we're getting very geeky. We're also gonna have Hannes Mulheisen, who's kind of the founder from DuckDB. So get really nerdy details over there. Anyways, a lot of more stuff. Here's another interesting person, Rainer Struck. He is somebody not from the data space. He actually works for Mars. I met him at Data Day Texas in January. He's actually been a long-time listener. He doesn't know, he's not from the data space, and he's coming in and now like trying to get more into the data, but really great conversations about like data and executive leadership and just seeing. One of the other things is the combination of data analytics with operational world. Like that's another big thing that I'm seeing now. So anyways, a lot, and there's more. There's more people who are planning up, scheduling, right, figuring things out. So this should be a very fun season. Really excited.
Yeah, and we'll have some good cocktails to boot. And once I have my bar set up, we'll have some real combinations.
So then another exciting thing is that we have a website.
Yes. And I'm gonna, first of all, before you dive into the website, I'm gonna give Juan a big shout. This was like his special project, and used AI to help a little bit too.
A little bit, everything.
And AI is pretty good at this RDF stuff.
Well, everything. So here's the interesting thing, and I posted about it on my on LinkedIn and my Substack yesterday. Was we needed a website, but at the same time, I've been thinking about like, wait, we have all of this data and all this knowledge over the years that I want to start organizing, and we should put it together. We should go create a knowledge graph around this stuff. And then the other big topic that I've kind of been bringing up, and also it's been something that I've had so many conversations over the summer, and it's specifically coming up because context is such a big thing. Everybody's talking about ontologies and semantics, and then all the stuff that was announced at Snowflake and Databricks, which by the way feels like eons ago, but it was just 2 months ago. So everybody's been thinking about semantics and ontologies, and my whole point has been like, wait, remember that there's two types of semantics. The semantics that you want to be able to give for AI, all the context and stuff, but then there is the semantics of interoperability of systems, where AI agents are just one other system that you're trying to interoperate with. And it's clear to me that there are a smaller handful of people who clearly get it, who've been working on this. For example, folks like Bethany have been working on knowledge graph for 6, 7, 8 years, right, in practice and production. And there are the people who I'm like, they kind of get it, but I feel that they kind of need more examples. So I'm like, this was a perfect example to eat our own dog food, drink our own champagne, or drink our own cocktail, right? To really showcase what this means. So what I've been doing is, in a nutshell, is building out an entire knowledge graph of our podcast, of our episodes, of the guests, about the topics. Eventually, we'll bring in all specific details about our transcripts and stuff. That is a knowledge base, right? Represented as a knowledge graph. And I want to be able to do a bunch of stuff with that. One of those things is to create a website. One of those things is to go create an MCP server. One of those things is to release my data so other people can consume it as raw files in JSON, in RDF, and CSV. Another thing is to create a chat with your data. So many different things, so many different systems that I want to be able to go consume and operate. Another one is I want the Google and all the web all the people go index this stuff. So I want to be able to create my structured data so it can live on the web. All of these things are coming out from that same knowledge graph that I've been building. So that's what I've been. So it's kind of two parts right now. So building out that knowledge graph to show you how I'm defining the semantics, kind of define once, and then be able to go reuse it in so many places. And the website is that first.
You're truly living the build once, use many.
And I think that is the in essence kind of the principles that we should be driving towards. That's how we provide the compounding value. We always talk about the 1 + 1 is greater than 2. And by the way, this isn't a new thing or anything. Like, go back to the episode that we had with Alex Bertels from Netflix, where that's their whole unified data architecture. The whole they call it also define once and reuse everywhere. Anyways, but that's the whole principle. So really excited to kind of start doing things. Oh, the other thing is really I wanted to roll up my sleeves and play around a lot with. I mean, I have been little by little, but just had a real project. And I've been using Codex for this one, and it was. And it's
do you like Codex?
I was testing it out, and it's just been working. That's the only thing I've been using right now, and it's just so freaking cool to like be on my phone and just I have the remote desktop and just go write code. I mean, I'm not writing the code; I'm just prompting, and I haven't seen all this stuff happening. Which at the same time, it's got to be careful because my wife was like, "Hey, put the phone down." I'm like,
"I'm not working. I'm just chatting with my friend."
So that,
I've played around with Claude Code a little bit, and I personally pay for a ChatGPT subscription, and so I've been meaning to find a good project to lean Codex into. And before we hopped onto this episode, I was telling Juan about all of my home management challenges. As you can imagine, I'm moving into an old house that was had a lot of secret problems. And I'll just let your imagination run wild. Just think of what might happen if that were true, right? What I want actually is I want some software that can help me manage. Like, okay, well, I just bought a new HVAC system. Okay, like I need to keep track of all this stuff. And so I'm actually thinking of using Codex to build out like a kind of like a home ops kind of software. Keep track of all my things I've been maintaining and everything like that. So yeah. Wish me luck. Maybe I'll try it.
So what else is on your mind here?
Well, in addition to having some really great speakers, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in the world right now. And a lot of this leans AI because that's just like where a lot of the attention is right now, I feel like, even for data people. But, for example, some of the things that I feel like are casting shadows over a lot of what we're going to talk about this season or opportunities, depending on how you want to look at it, is, OpenAI had this big incident, right, where they their AI sandboxes accidentally attacked Hugging Face, right, and broke out of the boundaries of their testing environment and actually legitimately hacked another company, right? And then after that happened, it kind of broke the seal, right? And then Anthropic was like, we checked and we saw that we actually did that too. And then I don't know if everyone saw this, and then Meta raised their hand and they're like, yeah, we actually did this too. It happened. Like now everybody's checking and be like, oh, whoops, did something leak out of the backyard? And the answer is yes, it has. So we're at this interesting inflection point right now where like AI, is able to break outside of the guardrails that we're putting in front of it because of its intelligence and its access, right? And so I think that's a big opportunity and also kind of a shadow that's being casted that I think is going to come up. This sort of cybersecurity aspect. And bringing it back to data and analytics, right? It has a big impact on like, how do we manage our data? How do we make sure that it's safe? What does it mean to really embrace zero trust in a way that, has been, and a very identity aware situation to data in a similar way that has been done to things like APIs. So I think that's one example of a current event that's going to cast a shadow around things.
Yeah, I mean, I think security has always been an important thing, but now it's like it's going to be we're seeing it explode more and more now, and actually goes back to when I think about like the data teams, like how much now they're going to be impacted too, because they're like, well, we want to go do all these things, but then now they're going to have not only the roadblocks of governance but also security, which I think arguably the governance is more in their control, data teams, but security not much. So it's going to be interesting to see how this rolls out. At the same time, it's also going to be a forcing function to say, well, we're not going to just do a bunch of stuff. Like, we're going to focus on these particular types of projects because they're very clear business value that we need to go focus on. So
yeah, 100% agreed. I think another big topic that's going to come up is around AI proliferation, right? So there's a lot of quotes and analysis and research coming out. Like, I'll give one example. Like KPMG, for example, did a big research. CIO magazine did a big research, and the consistent trend against all of these is that you ask a company how many AI agents or AI applications they think they have running in their enterprise, and then how many they actually have running in their enterprise.
How big is that delta?
And on average, it's 10x wrong. They think they have 40, they have 400. Like, that's how wrong it is. You think of all the SaaS applications, you think of people experimenting with things, even if it's just on their laptop, they have lots of access to different things that agent can leverage, right? So it's a brave new world.
We're seeing again, this is the catalogs now for AI agents, and I mean, it all makes sense that we need to go do this, but it's what's really important is to figure out that you need to, all this stuff gets connected, right? So it's not like, oh, you're going to have now this catalog for AI agents and you have your catalog for your data stuff. Like, no, all this stuff is just like literally one catalog, one map that connects it all together, including all of your semantics that provides all the context and stuff. This is the enterprise brain that we've always been talking about, which
right.
Including, just start connecting all this stuff. But again, don't boil the ocean. So.
Right. And it points back to foundations again. And think about the whole self-service analytics movement, right? Democratizing data. Everybody
can create an agent now.
Anybody can do analysis, and anybody can do data prep, right? Like, and great, like that's great, right? Anybody can build an agent, but now it always points fingers back to, but can I trust the data? Do I have the context? Should I be allowed to do that? Like, if you have 100 agents, or 1,000 agents, which ones do you use? Which one's the right one? There's 10 different agents that do sales automation. Which one should we use? So it all comes back to enablement, governance. I see Bob Signer just left a comment. Hey, Bob. It's about change management. It's about, check out Data Catalyst for those who haven't checked out Bob's latest work. And it's all those things. It's for data, it's for analytics, it's for AI. It's the same foundation.
And a quick shout out here. This is LinkedIn user, but actually Sonia, great to have you over here too. So talking about this foundation, one of the things that looking at and thinking about what happened over the summer, three events that I went to. Many events, but three of them. So you have the Snowflake, Databricks, and then talk about CDO-IQ. So this was June, and CDO-IQ was July. So what was fascinating is that in the Snowflake and Databricks, it is all, of course, AI, and then context, and it seemed like all this magic, and like everybody, and like they're selling you and like, here's the things you should go do right now with agents, and you can do this right now. And the cool thing is that you can literally go do this right now. Like, they have all this stuff now, it's working and it's amazing. And now the Genie ontology that it automatically generates their quote unquote ontology, all these what they call ontology snippets. Basically, they figured out how to boil the ocean. And the way how they managed doing that is that they actually have like a page rank algorithm to go figure out, to surface the most popular things. All right, perfect. But then I go off and I spent like the following month, I go hang out with a bunch of these data leaders, data executives at the CDO-IQ conference. And every single conversation I was in, talk that was attended, a panel and so forth, where you actually had the data leaders speaking, how many of them were all hyped up or presenting, talking about what they were doing with agents? Honestly, none of them. They were all talking about the foundation, but not talking about, oh, we should go do the foundations. They were actually talking about their experiences of building those foundations and succeeding at them and doing all that hard work. Uh, and it just it's such a it's just so fascinating to go be in one place in one bubble and see everybody talk about this. And when I'm in these events, like in the Databricks and Snowflake, I'm having all these conversations also with data leaders and executives, and it's very clear they're like, okay, I get what they want us to go do, but like, how are you really going to go do that? But how are you going to deal with this foundational problem, that foundational problem, and so forth? Because they're not getting any answers to that there. And then you go off and just go have these meetings and conversations where you are we're with the data leaders who are really sharing what they're actually doing, very separate from what the vendors are saying. So this is a really fascinating. I mean, not surprising too, because vendors. I mean, we're vendors too. We say these things, and we'll acknowledge that. But also, like where people are today, there is a gap, and I just kind of it's just a reminder for people who are trying to figure this out, and from practitioners to executives and people working in strategies. Like, don't worry, everybody's figuring this out, and they are figuring this out. But also is for the vendors out there, like they actually are pushing the barrier, and they're quote selling you, but they're showing you what actually can be happening, and this is your North Star. So another thing that happens that kind of analyzing throughout the summer is there's the gigantic consolidation that's happening. What is annoying right now to the organizations is that every single vendor is telling you they can do everything. And this is annoying. And this is really, really an important moment for vendors to really be very differentiator about what they can really do, what they can't do, what is their vision. And at the same time, for the organizations to step up and be clear, what is your strategy when it comes to your vendors and partners, and who are you investing in, and who do you want to double down on those investments in because they're going to partners? What are you going to do with point solutions, because those point solutions are probably going to get acquired, and what if they get acquired by another vendor who you don't have a strategic relationship, or you do? That's the type of stuff that we need to go figure out. So it's part of that that strategy that organizations to have is also now more than ever think about how they want to go deal with their partners and their vendors, because the vendors should be your partners, right? At the end of the day, we're all in this together. Anyways, I'm ranting. I'll shut up.
I think those are good rants. I think in my mind I was thinking preach. So I mean, it's cool. It's cool what's happening. And a couple quick comments based on what you said. One is, do you remember a few years ago, maybe it was even longer than that, when we started talking about knowledge first? We're here. The world is here, and it's all about knowledge, right? And and a very similar, a cousin to knowledge is context, and everything is about context. And very interesting conversations, lots of hype, but very interesting conversations about what does it mean to think about knowledge, think about context, think about semantics in a much more first class kind of way. And we've got all sorts of interesting offshoots from that, like context engineering. Like, what does it mean to do context engineering? Context collection, context generation, context utilization. How do you take context and apply it to the work so that actually the right thing happens in the workflow or in the application? So context, including directly related to analytics. So, one thing that I think is really interesting over the last 6 months or so is that there's been some pretty major breakthroughs in the benchmarks. And for those of you that know, Juan and I are both from Data.World. Before Data.World was acquired by ServiceNow, Juan and our AI lab led a kind of first major benchmark around doing text-to-SQL analytics using a relatively realistic insurance-based data set. And then that was picked up by DBT and Neo4j and a lot of other companies that kind of extended that work and either revalidated it or kind of took it in slightly new directions. And I think at that time we applied, really basic knowledge graph capabilities, and we got it from like what were the numbers? One it was like 20% up to like 50%, or like it was pretty low at that time, right?
Yeah, but it was like it was still a 3x increase with just basically
3x increase, yeah, and then 4 point something x increase after you applied some further sort of constraints on things. Now, the benchmarks that are recently coming out, like DBT just did a 2026 benchmark with GPT 5.3 codex, got 100% accuracy on their benchmark set. Claude Sonnet and Anthropic did a recent benchmark, and it was 98.2%, right? So obviously these tests are always, there's always some aspect that'll put some boxes around it, but we're starting to move into a little bit of a new era now where it's not about just can you beat the benchmark? It's how scalable and how much can you break the boundaries of the benchmark, right? Like a true kind of human scale. And then also now it's about cost economics.
That is the point. And actually, I've had, even in the last week, for some reason, several people reaching out to me about like our benchmark, like, oh, we're going to do something else. I'm like, at this point, like the whole accuracy thing is done. Like it's clear that you can get to the highest accuracy possible if you get the context.
With the right data quality, with the right context, you can hit 100%.
My position on that aspect is like, yes, do the semantics and the context and stuff, but don't do it just for the AI, because that work that you're doing for that context for AI is something you have to go do. It goes back to my whole point of semantics of AI and everything. Anyway, won't repeat that. But what I really want to go do now, and what I want people seeing is, can you achieve the highest accuracy? Two things: latency, and then also token cost. Because what I'm seeing is people saying, "Oh yeah, I get all the highest accuracy." I'm like, "Yeah, but you turned on with the highest model, and what is the token cost?" And actually, it repeats and tries again and again.
What's the token? How many tokens is it burning, and how many reasoning loops did it have to do? Right.
So yeah. Well, and then I think if you go back to our original research around this stuff, we did something incredibly simple. KISS, keep it simple, stupid. And it was literally a 0-shot prompt what we did. And obviously you can get more advanced in doing things, but I feel that people are making it so complicated because they think that the simple thing won't work just because it's simple. And I'm like, wait, there are things, try the simplest thing, and then also figure out what you can go do in a deterministic way after the fact. So there's there's things that you do basically pre, live, and post. Pre is like, what do you do beforehand you try anything? That's setting up your foundations and to have the right context and the right semantics, all that stuff. In the middle, where you're doing things live, like that's where people I think are complicating themselves, doing all these loops and all that stuff. Make it simple, because it's easier to manage and be able to control and less expensive. And then because you're probably doing things there in that middle part with the LLM, which actually should be something that you should do post in a deterministic way, which is cheaper and faster to go do. And honestly, I just think people are, sorry, but probably a little bit, one way if interpreters maybe they're lazy or like, oh, let me just go let the LLM do everything. I'm like, no, think about this, right? What should be something repeatable, deterministic? That's a check after the fact.
Yeah. There's sort of a new CAP theorem situation emerging, right, where you have to optimize. And CAP theorem obviously applied more to kind of database technologies, but for AI, we're entering a world where you're optimizing and you're choosing between how accurate does it need to be, right? Could it be in the ballpark, or does it have to be exact, right? Are you giving a cancer diagnosis? Better be exact, right? Then there's performance, right? Do you want it to be fast? Do you want it to handle a high amount of data? There's actually multiple dimensions of performance, but let's just kind of say performance, accuracy, performance, and then there's cost, right? And, I got the accurate answer and I was able to get it sub-second, but the answer costed me $10,000. Was it worth it?
That's a good point. That's an interesting point right there. Let's see what's going to, this is where everybody's building and they're going to figure out, well, why do I have to, do we have to go build an organization, or we're actually going to get, the economics are going to, other people are going to be forced to get those economics right, such that I'm just going to go buy this instead of have to go build it myself. So, but at the end of the day, what it is clear is that you have to own your own context, because that's your stuff. And again, you're going to be using, again, semantics for interoperability of systems is that you're probably going to be using multiple different AI systems that they all should be reading from that same context semantics. And so that's the important thing to think about.
So I have one other interesting topic. Juan, how many else do you have?
Probably two.
Two? Okay.
See.
Do you want to
You
go
go, you go
first,
first.
and then you want me to go next?
Yeah, you go.
All right, I'll go next. So another interesting topic that I think is both historical in terms of a topic that has come up multiple times on this show, but also I think will cast some opportunities and shadows on this season, is kind of I'm going to say the postmodern data stack, right? Where we are now in this era where we're kind of swinging back to platforms, but it's not even. It's not just like, oh, okay, everybody's going to consolidate on platforms, right? Obviously, you have Snowflake, you have Databricks. If you look at more of the sort of application and operational side, you have things like ServiceNow and Salesforce, et cetera, right? But, then you've got sort of things that are in the middle, right? So Fivetran and DBT on June 1st finalized their merger. So now they're a unified company. Super interesting. And now they have data integration. They have, semantic layer. They have data transformation. That they have quite a few interesting pieces that are part of their stack, right? Except for the database. They're not really doing the database. A lot of acquisitions, by the way, going on in the space, right? SAP, et cetera. I've been doing a lot there. But then you have like interesting, very fast growing upstarts, that aren't really upstarts anymore. Like look at the DuckDB community and what's happening there. Insane growth of adoption, and not just with DuckDB, but the whole kind of mother duck portfolio of capabilities. And you've got companies like ClickHouse, for example, that have focused a lot more on kind of like the event exhaust information. But they're building their own kind of data ecosystem. So anyways, I thought it would be, interesting to just call that out, that like the platforms and the technologies that are going on inside the data space right now there's new players, really fast growth, shifting use case prioritization, but of course a lot of platformization as well.
So this goes back to the topic I was bringing up about how the consolidations and how everybody's now saying they can do everything, and this is annoying. And what I've described, I've said it here or written about it, but it's like I call it the triangle of consolidations, where you have these systems of record. You have your HR systems, your ERP system. You have your systems of analytics, your data lakes, your data warehouses, and you have your systems of actions and workflows. And all of this is converging. So every single main player there is acquiring companies and merging all this stuff. And then you put on top of it all the hyperscalers that do everything. So this is all converging. And then if you are a point solution, like, oh, I do this feature very well. That feature, guess what? Think about anything that's around metadata. Like all these different kind of big platforms need metadata. So that feature is going to be something that they're all going to have. So if you're if you have a particular point solution that is specific for this gigantic feature, goes back into like, do I need 100% of that feature, or maybe I can live with 60, 70, 80% because it's going to be part of it. And even though I may take a step backwards, but the whole economics are going to work and it's part of my strategy. Yeah. Also knowing that these platforms are probably going to start building more around that stuff.
If the economies of scale and the fact that your semantics are interchangeable and these aspects that make the better together more valuable than the piece parts, then, that's interesting.
And I think, so one of the things that I've been telling in conversation I had with a lot of executives around on this particular aspect of what I call this great convergence is, again, think about what is your partnership strategy. And I think there's probably three things that I talk about. One is governance is now non-negotiable. Everybody knows they need governance, and the surface area of governance is increasing dramatically. So we need to be able to have ways to automate governance, because humans cannot catch up to this, period. Now, the question is, how are you going to automate governance? And AI, of course, but I can't. I mean, for governance being so important, I can't just, hey, have some non-deterministic probabilistic LLM to go do this. So this is kind of where you need to have a deterministic rules, workflows approach to be able to deal with autonomous data governance. So that's something that I tell companies, and think about how are you going to scale out your governance and which approaches for automating governance. There should be some workflows approaches. One. Second, all this convergence, metadata is going to be at the center, semantics, context is going to be at the center. Who is doing, goes back to my point, semantics for AI or semantics for interoperability of systems? It should be focused for interoperability of systems, not just for AI. So if all you're hearing is like just, oh yeah, we have a semantic stuff that all you need to go do is write it in some YAML file and some text and that's it, I don't think that's a great approach. That thing can come out of something that is more structured. So that's the semantics. And the third part is really about a true optionality. It's all these platforms are converging, and naturally they want the center of gravity to be in their platform. And now the question for our people out there to think about is where do you want your optionality? Like I really need to keep my data here. I want this other platform to consume from it, but now I don't want to have to be forced to go move all my data, and not just for data, but it's also for that semantics in your context, because I want you to manage all my context here in one place, but that means I can only use it there. No, I need that to be used at different places. So those are three aspects, right? So how are you doing autonomous and automated governance? You need to have deterministic workflows. Thinking about the semantics and the context, you think about it as semantics for interoperability, not just for AI. And when it comes to optionality, the optionality is both on the data side. That's why you're seeing a lot of zero copy connectors, but people are saying, do they really mean that they're actually enabling that optionality? And not just for data, but also for the semantics, the metadata, the context, the knowledge part. That's my other little rant.
It's not a little rant, it's a big rant.
All right, another couple more things. OSI, or now Apache Nessie, that is something that we're hearing more and more. I'm trying to spend more time with it myself. Also participating there. Yeah, my apologies because summer's been busy, but now I'm trying to organize my time, but I'll be participating much more there. I'm actually part of that ontology working group, and there's a metrics, and then there's the catalog. So I think that's something that is really interesting because it's finally getting, even though we've had metadata for so long and standards and stuff, it's kind of, we needed the new revamped kind of let's get a group of a new person comes in and let's get the people together on that. And people are like, yes, let's all get together. And I think that's a good thing. And I'm really excited. And I think this is a great movement that's happening, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how everybody starts to collaborate about that because it's a clear need. So
and I'm glad it got joined up with the Apache Foundation, because one thing that people were a little nervous about is like, is this more of kind of a vendor thing? And now this really kind of puts it in the hands of the community to really drive as we go forward. So
I'll hear that Bob Steiner is saying, this is a really good point. Automating governance, I would say embed governance into what people do. You can automate some rules, but it is the people that need to be governed. This is a really interesting aspect because it goes back to like another point that I've been making is data is not at the center, context is not at the center, governance is not at the center. It's the work that needs to be done is at the center. So you need to be and how that work gets done and who gets that work done. So governance is an enabler of getting that work done. Context is an enabler of getting that work done. Data is an enabler of getting that work done. So I definitely agree with that.
Really, it's work that's at the center.
Work at the center.
I think that's a good point. And, Bob's comment there reminds me of another topic that's sort of evergreen and has always been a big theme of our show, is around data culture, data change management, data fluency, a little bit more of the people side of how you're affecting impact around data and analytics in the organization. So I think that's going to continue to be a big theme, because in a time of rapid change and rapid evolution, there's a huge number of opportunities, but only if we as individuals and we as organizations are positioned to actually understand and put to work those different capabilities.
Then one more topic I have on mind is really the kind of the bridging and the integration more of operational in the analytics world. And I think this is something that is the AI agents is a forcing function for this, because all this consolidation is happening, I'm talking about, that means that part of this consolidation is these systems of record are coming from the operational side, these systems of analytics side, and they're all consolidating. So there's systems of record who want you to go do the analytics on their side, and there's analytics who want you to do systems of record. So now this is all coming together. But even if you have the technology that does this, it's not going to happen if we don't start building the bridges between these different, not just communities, but also within an organization. Because there's like the operational world and there's the analytics world, but all the data analytics people and the CDOs, like, it's hard to show ROI or stuff. Like, this is the moment where you need to be understand how the data flows within the organization through the operations to really understand how you're providing analytical value and driving action with the insights you're delivering. And this is now going to be I think the biggest trend, not even the trend, like this is what just has always needed to happen. We have not been doing this, and that's the reason why it's hard to show value. So this is why I think we're starting to go see this more and more. And I had a recent kind of a bigger aha moment around this. I was at our ServiceNow AI Summit in Brazil, where I was meeting a bunch of customers over there, where they're like, wow, these companies are like, they're using ServiceNow, but they could be using other platforms, that they're running all of their operations and now their analytics in that same platform. And they already have that mindset around that. And it also gets me to think about, like, in different cultures, different countries, where you try to be somewhat a little bit more, call it scrappy. And I look at other places in the US, sometimes in Europe, where like we get too bloated. That's why you have all these different vendors. And I'm like, did you really need all those different vendors' approaches to go do things to accomplish that work? So I think this is so the economics and the token maxing and all this stuff is really going to be a forcing function to figure out how can we really do more with less.
Yep. And how can we reuse like the work and the foundations that we've been laying in some of these different tools and capabilities and actually bring it together into something that's actually more of to use a phrase that you used earlier today, the enterprise brain, to build out more of that enterprise brain. Because if you're paying vendor 1 for AI, you're paying vendor 2 for AI, you're paying vendor 3 for AI, you're paying vendor 4 for AI, that's not going to make a lot of sense, right? You want to have a cleaner stack of sort of your data, your knowledge and your semantics and your context, and then the actions and the workflows that you're trying to drive for your particular industry application or your particular more horizontal application, versus 500 whatever SaaS applications that a lot of companies are dealing with right now. So I think that's going to be a big shift. It's going to be a big change, but AI is going to let us accelerate some of that. And people like data engineers are going to be at the center of that as well, because they're going to be helping to prepare that transition and that foundational work that's happening under the hood.
And here's a comment from Sonia saying, yeah, the work needs to be the center. Is a really important way of thinking about governance. And I think what was important about this is that it's a forcing function. Like, thinking about the work that needs to get done it's going to help us build all those bridges.
Yep.
And
Bob's word embed is a very important word, because embedding it into the work is what's going to allow you to become a partner to the business as opposed to some sort of an ivory tower.
Yeah, it's people at the center doing the work. How can we make the governance process safe for the people to get the work done? That's it. Just what are the things that need to happen within the organization? There's some back office stuff that needs to happen. There's IT things, there's HR things, right? But then there's all the front office of the stuff that needs to be done from what is revenue generation and so forth. And data analytics teams have the opportunity to help both of us figure out what are those things, where is the work that needs to happen, where are there opportunities to really improve the resilience of your operations. Like this is, and once you're doing this, analyzing that, you realize, wait, we can actually improve those business processes, those workflows that we have. And this is where I think the data analytics world, or the data community, has a huge opportunity to make the impact, because they can really be at the center of enabling all that work to happen.
Yep. So maybe to kind of cap things off here,
because I finished my cocktail. So
yeah, you're almost done, right?
Wrap it up.
I gotta make more progress. It's hard for me to sip good whiskey quickly. I feel like I'm like the slower I go, the more I'm relishing it. As a kind of a final thought here, I actually want to push it back to you all who are listening, whether you're watching or you're listening. What do you want to talk about? What are you interested in? What's keeping you up at night? What are the opportunities that you're trying to seize right now, but maybe you're struggling, or maybe you're a leader, right? And you want other people to kind of see how to do things in a way, what you've unlocked and what you figured out. Please leave a comment, leave your thoughts, leave your story, and feel free to ping Juan and myself directly. I'm tim.gasper at servicenow.com. Juan, you're what? Juan.cicada at servicenow.com. Shoot us a note. Oh, Juan, I don't hear you for some reason. Is that on my side or yours?
So, and there's the website I just put there, honestnobsdata.com.
And there's our new website.
And then go there. There's a contact us, right? Just a simple Google form. Just fill it out. Just send us anything that you're interested in about any topic that we should be talking more about. Anybody who you want to suggest.
You know someone, or maybe you know yourself, and you're like, I would love to speak on some topic.
Yeah, please do. We do that. Like, we get a lot of inbound, a lot of PR firms inbound stuff, and we're very careful. Yeah. Like, honestly, we only want to have people who we don't non-salesy. Remember, so there's a bunch. With all due respect, I know there's a lot of people who want to go off and talk about their thing, but they're selling their product.
Yeah.
This is all about being honest, no BS, non-salesy, and please share us what's on your mind.
And we put a particular prioritization on, like, hey, if an individual themselves in the community, whether you're a leader or you're a practitioner, reaches out, right? Like not a PR firm, not an EA, not a, et cetera. So, Juan, I'm excited for this next season. This is going to be a lot of fun. We've got some great conversations lined up, some great cocktails lined up, some great events lined up. I know you're going to be speaking, I believe, at Big Data London, for example. So this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, I will.
I'm going to be at the AI Summit in Atlanta next week. So for those of you coming to the ServiceNow AI Summit, I'll see you there.
So much stuff. Just follow us on LinkedIn. You'll see where we'll be at. Tim, my friend, cheers. I thought this was going to be like, oh, just quick, hello, what's going on?
Yeah, I know. We're like, hey, we could keep this at 30 minutes, and then we really got going. So, you can't stop an honest knob once they get going.
Gosh, that'll be the next joke for all the UK folks. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for chiming in, and we'll catch you all next week on LinkedIn and Substack and all that stuff.
Cheers, everyone.